The ship shuddered violently as the blaring alarms echoed through the narrow corridors of the Starshade. Captain Mara Voss gripped the console, her knuckles white, sweat trickling down her brow. The distress signal had come through with a chilling urgency. "Help! We're being hunted! The Starshade Accord!" The message was fragmented, but the fear in the voice was palpable. "Reroute power to the engines!" she barked, adrenaline coursing through her veins. Her crew was a ragtag bunch, but they had become family over the long years of smuggling runaways and contraband across the galaxy. First Mate Kellen, a hulking figure with a heart of gold, scrambled to comply, his hands flying over the controls. "Captain, we're losing time! We're too far from the nearest jump point!" he shouted, his voice barely carrying over the chaos. Mara's mind raced. The Starshade was already notorious for its unsanctioned activities, but she couldn't ignore the plea for help. "We'll make it. Just a little more speed," she replied, though doubt gnawed at her. As they approached the signal's origin, a derelict space station drifted in the void, its once majestic structure now a ghostly shell. Mara's heart sank. The crew had encountered horror stories about this place, rumors of a war between two factions, the Valkor and the Zinth, both seeking something hidden within its walls. "Prepare for boarding," Mara ordered, her voice steady despite the dread pooling in her stomach. She had a deep-seated need to rescue anyone in distress, a remnant of her past when she had been saved by a smuggler herself. As they docked, the airlock hissed open, revealing darkness and the stench of decay. Shadows flickered in the corners of her vision as she led the way, her trusty blaster gripped tightly in her hand. Kellen followed, flanked by their engineer Juno, whose mechanical expertise was matched only by her sharp wit. "Stay close," Mara cautioned, the tension thickening as they stepped into the main chamber. The flickering lights barely illuminated the walls, covered in strange symbols and alien technology. A faint whimper echoed through the silence, cutting through the oppressive atmosphere. Mara's heart raced as she moved toward the source of the sound, each step heavy with foreboding. There, huddled in the corner, was a figure, an alien, frail and trembling. Their eyes glowed faintly, a deep azure that seemed to pierce through the darkness. "Help," the creature whispered, its voice resonating in Mara's mind, not through sound, but through thought. A wave of emotion washed over her, fear, loneliness, and something deeper, a connection that transcended language. Before she could respond, the echo of approaching footsteps sent her heart into her throat. "We have to move," she shouted, urgency flooding her voice. But the alien's gaze locked onto hers, and for a moment she felt a surge of warmth, a flicker of hope that ignited something within her. "Please," it implored, "I am all that remains. They'll come for me." Just as the words settled in her mind, the air crackled with energy. Mara's instincts kicked in. "We're not leaving you behind," she vowed, knowing full well that the stakes had just escalated far beyond their initial mission. The air hummed with tension as the distant sounds of boots echoed through the corridors of the derelict station. Mara's instincts screamed that they had little time. She turned to the alien, who still crouched in the corner, its shimmering azure eyes wide with fear. "What's your name?" she asked, her voice low but urgent. "Elys," it replied, the name resonating in her mind like a soft bell. "I am a refugee. They seek my power." Mara exchanged a glance with Kellen, who was already scanning the shadows for threats. "We need to get you to the Starshade," she said. "Can you walk?" Elys nodded slowly, though it looked weak and unsteady. Kellen stepped forward, offering a hand. "We'll help you. Just stay close," he urged, his usual bravado replaced by a protective gentleness. As they moved through the station, Mara felt the pull of something greater than their mission. Elys was not just a refugee. There was a profound energy radiating from them, whispering secrets to her mind. She caught glimpses of distant stars, memories of places she'd never been, and an overwhelming sense of belonging. But that connection was cut short as the footsteps grew louder, the sound sharp and menacing. "Go! Now!" she shouted, urgency fueling her as they darted down a narrow passage. The flickering lights above cast eerie shadows, twisting the decay into grotesque shapes. Elys stumbled, and Kellen quickly steadied it, gritting his teeth as he pushed forward. Suddenly, a blast echoed behind them, and the wall erupted in a shower of sparks. Mara spun around, her blaster raised, only to find a squad of Valkor soldiers emerging from the smoke, their helmets gleaming ominously. "Capture them!" one of them shouted, their voice distorted through the helmet's comms. "Run!" Mara yelled, adrenaline surging through her veins. They dashed down the corridor, the sounds of their pursuers echoing behind them. The station was a labyrinth, and she had to think quickly. "Juno, can you find us a way out?" "On it," Juno replied, her voice steady even as they raced through the chaos. She glanced at a nearby control panel, her fingers flying over the screen. "If we can get to the main reactor, we can overload it. It'll create a distraction." Mara nodded, trusting her instincts. "Let's do it." They rounded a corner, and Elys stumbled again, breathless. "We need to hurry." Suddenly, a group of Zinth warriors appeared ahead, their sleek armor glinting menacingly. Mara's heart sank. They were caught between two factions, both of whom would stop at nothing to obtain Elys. "Back! Back!" she shouted, pushing Kellen and Elys behind her. The Zinth raised their weapons, and for a heartbeat, time seemed to stretch. A decision loomed before her: to fight, to sacrifice, or to flee. But before she could act, Elys stepped forward, eyes glowing with a fierce light. The air crackled around them, a palpable energy igniting the space. "I can help," it said, voice resonating in the depths of Mara's mind. "Help how?" Mara asked, fear and hope intertwining. "I can show them. I can make them see." Mara felt a rush of emotions, a bond forging between them. She realized Elys wasn't just a refugee. It was a beacon of something greater. "Do it," she urged, trusting in the connection they shared. In an instant, Elys closed its eyes, and the world around them shifted. The Zinth hesitated, confusion spreading across their faces as visions flooded their minds, images of war, of destruction, and of unity. Mara could feel the weight of Elys's power, a force that transcended their immediate circumstances. The Zinth stumbled back, their weapons lowering. "What is this?" one of them muttered, caught in the otherworldly vision. "Now!" Mara shouted, taking advantage of their momentary distraction. They bolted past the Zinth, racing toward the reactor room, their hearts pounding in unison. As they reached the main chamber, Juno was already at the console. "We're almost there," she yelled over the chaos, sweat glistening on her forehead. Mara glanced back, the sound of pursuing soldiers echoing through the corridors. "Hurry, Juno!" The stakes were rising, and the weight of Elys's fate pressed heavily on her shoulders. With a final keystroke, Juno activated the overload sequence. "Let's go!" she shouted, and they sprinted down the corridor, the station rumbling ominously behind them. As they reached the airlock, Mara felt a rush of warmth wash over her. Elys was not just a passenger in this adventure, it was a crucial part of their survival. They were in this together, and the galaxy was about to change forever. The Starshade hummed with life as the crew scrambled to prepare for takeoff. Mara stood at the helm, her heart racing as the distant rumble of the station echoed through the ship's hull. They had made it out, but the real battle was just beginning. Elys leaned against the wall, visibly exhausted but determined, its azure eyes flickering with a soft light. "Captain," Kellen said, breaking her focus, "we've got incoming ships. The Valkor and Zinth are both on our tail." Mara's jaw tightened. "How long until we can jump?" "We need a few minutes to recharge the hyperdrive. We won't outrun them without it," Juno replied, her fingers flying over the console. "Then we need to buy that time," Mara decided, glancing at Elys. "Can you help us?" Elys nodded slowly, though weariness clouded its features. "I can create a barrier. For a short time. It may not hold them back for long." "Do it," Mara urged, feeling the weight of leadership settle heavily on her shoulders. As Elys focused, the air around them shimmered, creating a translucent shield that pulsed with energy. Mara could feel the power radiating from the alien, a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. "Kellen, get ready to engage." He nodded, gripping the controls. "Let's show them what the Starshade can do." Mara's heart raced as they felt the first impacts against the ship's hull. The Valkor had arrived, their ships sleek and menacing, weapons firing with deadly precision. "Hold steady!" she shouted, adrenaline surging as Kellen maneuvered the ship, weaving through the incoming fire. The Zinth weren't far behind, their vessels emerging from the darkness like phantoms. "We're surrounded!" Juno yelled, her voice laced with panic. "Not for long. Elys, can you strengthen the barrier?" Mara called, desperately hoping for a miracle. Elys's face contorted in concentration, the barrier flickering but holding. "I will try, but it drains me." As the chaos unfolded, Mara felt a surge of anger and fear. The galaxy had become a battleground for power, and they were caught in the crossfire. But she couldn't let that despair consume her. "We need to find a way to turn this around," she muttered, her mind racing. Just then, a thought struck her. What if we could get the two factions to fight each other instead? "Are you suggesting we use Elys as bait?" Kellen asked, incredulous. "Not bait, an opportunity. If they see Elys as a threat, they might focus on each other rather than us," Mara explained, her voice steadying as the plan took shape. "That's risky, Captain," Juno warned, her eyes wide. "Risky is better than dead," Mara replied, her resolve hardening. "We need to create a distraction and give Elys a chance to harness its power." With a nod of agreement, Kellen adjusted the ship's trajectory, aiming toward the incoming Zinth fleet. "We can fire a warning shot to get their attention. Then Elys can project an illusion, something to make them believe they're under attack." Elys looked at Mara, uncertainty flickering in its gaze. "I can try, but it's dangerous. They may retaliate." "Trust us," Mara replied, her heart pounding. "We'll protect you." As Kellen fired a warning shot, the Zinth ships swerved, confusion rippling through their formation. Mara could see the Valkor ships adjusting their fire, targeting the Zinth. "Now, Elys!" she shouted. With a fierce concentration, Elys closed its eyes, and the air shimmered once more. An illusion erupted, weaving through the stars, a vision of a massive, menacing creature, a being of pure energy, emerging from the depths of space. The Zinth and Valkor ships hesitated, fear etched across their pilots' faces. "Look!" Kellen shouted. "They're turning on each other!" Mara felt a rush of adrenaline as the two factions began firing upon one another. The Starshade was now a mere shadow in their conflict, and for the first time, they had a chance. "Let's get out of here," Juno yelled, her voice rising above the chaos. Kellen punched the hyperdrive, and Mara held her breath as the ship lurched forward, hurtling into the void just as an explosion rocked the space behind them. The screen flickered, showing the Valkor and Zinth ships locked in a deadly dance, their conflict erupting into chaos. As the stars blurred around them, Mara felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had escaped, but the victory was bittersweet. Elys collapsed against the wall, the energy drain evident in its features. "Are you okay?" Mara rushed to its side, concern flooding her heart. I will recover," Elys said, breathless yet resolute. "But what now?" Mara looked around at her crew, her family forged in the fires of danger. "Now, we regroup. We need to figure out what's happening with the factions and how we can protect you, Elys. You're not just a refugee anymore. You're a key to something much larger." The weight of their journey settled upon them, but amidst the uncertainty, a flicker of hope ignited. Together, they could face whatever lay ahead, united by their shared purpose and the promise of a brighter future. The Starshade drifted through the vastness of space, the hum of the engine a soothing backdrop to the chaos that had just unfolded. Mara stood at the helm, her gaze fixed on the swirling stars ahead. They had escaped, but the journey was far from over. Elys needed protection, and the factions would not relent so easily. "Where are we headed?" Kellen asked, leaning against the console, his expression a mixture of concern and determination. "We need to find a safe place to lay low and regroup," Mara replied. "Somewhere the Valkor and Zinth won't think to look for us." Juno, tapping the screen in front of her, chimed in. "I have a contact on the Outer Rim, a former smuggler who knows how to navigate the politics of both factions. If anyone can help us, it's them." Mara nodded, the idea taking root. "Let's go. We need allies if we're going to protect Elys and understand what's really at stake here." As the ship powered up for the jump, Elys approached, its eyes shimmering with an ethereal glow. "Thank you for what you did. I felt their fear, but I also felt something else, a connection between you and them." Mara raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What do you mean?" "The energy that binds us all. It speaks of unity and conflict. Your actions may have shifted something in the balance of power. They will come for me again, but this time they will not be alone," Elys warned, its voice echoing in her mind. "Then we need to be ready," Mara said, determination flooding her. "We'll find a way to bring them together, to forge an alliance against the true enemies that threaten us all." As they emerged from hyperspace, the crew stared in awe at their destination, a vibrant planet, lush and teeming with life. The atmosphere shimmered with hues of green and blue as they descended toward a hidden cove, a safe haven amidst the turmoil. Once on the surface, they met with Mara's contact, an enigmatic figure named Rian, cloaked in shadows and secrets. "You've stirred the pot, Captain Voss," Rian said, his voice smooth as silk. "Both factions are on high alert. You must tread carefully." "We need to find a way to unite them," Mara replied, her voice firm. "Elys is the key, but we need a strategy to convince them." Ryan considered her words, a glimmer of intrigue dancing in his eyes. "There's a gathering coming up, a council of leaders from both the Valkor and Zinth. If you can present Elys as a bridge between their worlds, it may just work." "Then we need to get Elys to that council," Kellen interjected. "But it's dangerous," Juno warned. "They'll see Elys as a threat. We need to ensure its safety." "I can handle myself," Elys said, stepping forward. "But I will need your guidance. If I am to be the bridge, I must show them my true power." Mara felt a surge of pride for the alien. "Then we'll do this together. We'll prepare you for what's to come." Over the next few days, they strategized and trained, building a plan that balanced Elys's abilities with the crew's strengths. They crafted a narrative of unity, emphasizing Elys's potential to heal the rift between the factions. On the day of the council, tension hung thick in the air. Mara, Kellen, Juno, and Elys stood at the entrance of the Grand Hall, a colossal structure adorned with symbols of both the Valkor and Zinth. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation as leaders from both sides gathered, suspicion etched on their faces. As Mara stepped forward, the crowd silenced, eyes locking onto Elys. "Today we stand at a crossroads," she began, her voice steady. "We've seen the consequences of our conflict. Elys holds the key to a future where we can coexist, but we must first confront our fears." Elys stepped into the spotlight, its presence commanding. "I am not a weapon to be wielded, but a beacon of hope. Together we can forge a new path, but it requires trust and unity." A murmur rippled through the audience, and Mara could sense the tension shifting. It was now or never. "Both factions have suffered loss," she continued. "But what if we could turn that pain into purpose? If we unite, we stand a chance against the greater threats looming in the galaxy." Suddenly, a voice broke through the crowd. One of the Valkor leaders, a stoic figure with a fierce reputation. "And why should we trust an alien? How can we be sure this isn't a trap?" Mara took a deep breath, remembering the fear that had driven her own past. "Because I once stood where you are, consumed by mistrust. But it was through connection that I found my family, my crew. We have a common enemy, and Elys can help us see it." As she spoke, Elys raised its hands, energy radiating from its core, weaving through the air like a tapestry of light. The vision of unity unfolded before them, showing glimpses of a future where Valkor and Zinth thrived together, free from the chains of conflict. The audience watched in awe, the palpable energy resonating within them. Mara could see the hesitation in their eyes beginning to melt away, replaced by a flicker of hope. "Let us join forces," Elys urged, its voice echoing in their minds. "Together, we can protect our worlds and build something greater." Slowly, a ripple of agreement spread through the crowd. Leaders exchanged glances, their resolve shifting. The council was no longer a battleground, but a sanctuary for possibility. As the council came to a close, Mara stood beside Elys, Kellen, and Juno, hearts swelling with accomplishment. They had faced the darkness and emerged into the light, united by a shared purpose. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," Mara declared, her voice strong. "Together, we will forge the Starshade Accord, a testament to our strength and unity." As the crowd erupted in applause, Mara felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had turned the tide, but the journey was far from over. The galaxy was still filled with dangers lurking in the shadows, but now they faced them not alone, but as allies. With Elys by her side and the promise of hope ignited in their hearts, Mara knew they were ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, they would carve their path through the stars, bound by the unbreakable ties of courage, sacrifice,